Now we're doing the Hugo Strange. The Doctor Strange. Not Hugo. I've been playing too much Arkham City, goddammit. The Doctor Strange story.
Doctor Strange #1, the man who lost his hands before the mystic sigils, before the cloak, before the title of Sorcerer Supreme. There was only Stephen Strange. Dr. Stephen Strange was the best neurosurgeon in New York, maybe the world. His hands were steady as sculpture tools, precise as lasers. He could separate life from death by millimeters and stitches. Hospitals competed for his presence. Medical journals praised his techniques. Wealth followed naturally. He lived in a penthouse overlooking Manhattan, drove imported cars, and wore watches worth more than most people's rent. He charged astronomical fees and refused cases that didn't interest him. If a surgery wouldn't enhance his reputation, he declined it. "Why waste brilliance?" he once told a colleague, on mediocrity. Patients whispered his name with reverence. Colleagues whispered it with resentment. Strange didn't care. He believed skill made him untouchable. Then came the rain. The highway curved sharply along the cliffs outside the city. Strange was reviewing medical notes on his phone while driving, multitasking, confident, invincible. Headlights flashed in the storm, tires hydroplaned, metal screamed. The world flipped. When Stephen regained consciousness, everything hurt, but nothing hurt more than his hands. They were wrapped in bandages, suspended carefully. He tried to move his fingers. They trembled uncontrollably. Multiple fractures, nerve damage, severe trauma. "They'll heal," he insisted to the surgeon reviewing his scans. "They'll recover," he demanded. The surgeon's expression said otherwise. "They'll function," the doctor said carefully, "but not as they did before. Not as they did before." Strange began a desperate tour of specialists, experimental treatments, nerve grafts, stem cell trials. He spent millions chasing recovery. Every procedure failed. The tremors remained. His hands, once the most precise instruments in medicine, shook like leaves in the wind. Hospitals withdrew offers. Patients requested other surgeons. Medical boards quietly replaced him. Stephen Strange lost not only his career, but his identity. His fortune drained rapidly, funding his obsession. His penthouse sold, his cars repossessed. Pride crumbled into bitterness. He became harsh, withdrawn. One night, in a nearly empty bar, he overheard two men speaking about a miracle. "A guy with a crushed spine," one said. "Doctors said he'd never walk again. Now he's climbing mountains." Strange leaned in. "What treatment?" The man shrugged. "Someplace in the Himalayas, a healer. They call him the Ancient One." Strange scoffed at first. Mysticism, folklore, but he had run out of science. With his remaining money, he booked a flight to Nepal. The journey was grueling, from Kathmandu to remote villages, from roads to footpaths, from certainty to doubt. Eventually, exhausted and nearly penniless, Stephen reached a hidden monastery nestled between mountain peaks. There, he met Ancient One. The Ancient One was calm, composed, ageless. "I've come to be healed," Strange demanded, holding out his trembling hands. The Ancient One studied him quietly. "You seek to restore your hands," the master said, "but not your spirit." Strange bristled. "I didn't travel across the world for philosophy." "No," the Ancient One agreed softly. "You traveled because you are afraid." Strange stormed out, furious. But he had nowhere else to go. That night, he witnessed something impossible. A man in the courtyard practiced movements that bent reality itself. Light twisted around his fingers. Symbols of fire and geometry formed in the air. Strange stared, transfixed. The Ancient One approached him. "You still believe this world is only what you can touch?" the master asked. With a single gesture, the Ancient One pressed a hand to Strange's forehead. Stephen's consciousness exploded outward. He fell through dimensions, spiraling galaxies, endless planes of existence, realms of fire and shadow. He saw beings older than Earth itself. He felt the fabric of reality stretch and breathe. When he collapsed back into his body, gasping, the world was forever changed. "Teach me," Strange whispered. Training was brutal. Months turned into years. Strange studied ancient texts, learned languages long forgotten, practiced meditation until his mind grew sharp again, not with ego, but with awareness. He learned that magic was not spells and tricks. It was discipline, focus, Sacrifice. He failed often, fell, grew frustrated, but slowly the tremor in his hands became irrelevant, because magic did not rely on steady fingers. It relied on steady will. He mastered astral projection, conjured shields of golden light, opened portals between distant locations, studied the threats that lurked beyond mortal sight, entities that fed on chaos and fear. And he met Baron Mordo, another student of the Ancient One. Mordo was powerful, ambitious, and resentful of Strange's rapid growth. Where Strange had once been arrogant in medicine, Mordo was arrogant in magic. The Ancient One saw the darkness in Mordo's heart. Strange saw it too. One evening, Strange overheard Mordo plotting to betray their master, seeking forbidden power from darker dimensions. Strange confronted him. Their duel shattered stone pillars and lit the courtyard in crackling energy. In the end, Mordo fled into exile, vowing revenge. The Ancient One regarded Strange solemnly afterward. "You have changed," the master said. Strange looked at his scarred hands. "I had to lose them," he replied quietly. Years later, when dark forces threatened Earth once more, the Ancient One made a final sacrifice to stop them, passing on the mantle of protector. Stephen Strange knelt beside his fallen mentor. "You are ready," the Ancient One whispered. And with that, he was gone. Stephen Strange returned to New York, not as a surgeon, but as something far stranger. He took residence in a hidden sanctum at 177A Bleecker Street, a building unnoticed by most, protected by ancient wards. The Sanctum Sanctorum. Within its walls rested artifacts of immense power. The cloak of levitation draped across his shoulders, responding as if alive. The eye of Agamotto resting against his chest, glowing with arcane light. When unseen horrors stirred in dark dimensions, when demons tested the veil between worlds, when magic twisted the balance of reality, there was now someone watching. Floating cross-legged in quiet meditation, cloak shifting softly around him, Stephen Strange opened his eyes as distant mystical tremors rippled through the city. His hands formed precise symbols in the air. Golden sigils ignited at his fingertips. "I suppose," he murmured calmly, "the universe requires surgery. And this time, his hands did not tremble.
Now we have Spectacular Spider-Man number 6.
The Spectacular Spider-Man number 6, Shadows and Fangs. The streets of Manhattan were alive, but in a way Spider-Man could feel in his bones. Not just the hum of traffic or the chatter of pedestrians, but a cold, pulsing presence, something ancient and hungry weaving between the shadows. Spider-Man crouched atop a fire escape on the Lower East Side, ears straining, spider sense tingling like static electricity. His eyes scanned the alleyways below. "Okay," he muttered. Big teeth, long nails, dramatic wardrobe, not your usual street-level threat. Below, a man moved like liquid. Pale skin glimmered in the moonlight, hair slicked back, eyes glowing a predatory red. Michael Morbius, the living vampire. Peter frowned. Definitely not a social call. Before he could swing down, a ripple of energy split the air in front of him. A figure floated, cross-legged, draped in scarlet and blue. His cloak of levitation billowed slightly despite no wind. "Stephen Strange," Spider-Man said, recognizing the mystic immediately. "Good timing, though I'm not sure if I'm thanking you yet or screaming for help." Dr. Stephen Strange opened his eyes, golden light reflecting off the eye of Agamotto on his chest. "Spider-Man, this is more than a city-level problem. Michael Morbius has lost control. He is in his vampire form, hungry, and feeding on the desperate life force of anyone in reach." Spider-Man swung down into the alley, landing lightly beside Strange. "Feeding on the desperate sounds like my kind of villain," he said sarcastically. Strange ignored the joke. "He is not your typical adversary. Science failed him once, but magic rules the balance now. You must not engage him alone." Spider-Man pulled out a web line and fired at a lamppost. "Noted. What's the plan?" "Containment first," Strange said, raising a hand. Golden sigils flared in the air, shimmering with mystical energy. "I will create a binding circle. It will restrain him temporarily. You will need to distract him. Keep him moving until I can stabilize him with the sanctified elixirs I brought. Spider-Man crouched, ready. So basically, I'm the appetizer while the chef finishes the main course. Got it. The alley darkened, shadows crawling unnaturally as Morbius emerged from the far end, fangs glinting in the dim light. His movements were fast, inhumanly fast. Spider-Man shot a web at Morbius's feet, but the vampire leapt over it with a single bound, landing behind a dumpster. Spider-Man, he hissed, voice like silk over razor wire. You cannot stop me. I am eternal, hungry. Strange extended both hands, golden glyphs spinning between his palms. Peter, circle now. Spider-Man flipped over a fire escape railing, landing in front of Morbius. Hey, over here, tall, pale, and dramatic, he shouted, firing multiple webs at Morbius's torso. Morbius caught the webs midair and ripped them apart with inhuman strength. Careful, Strange warned. He feeds on more than blood. Fear empowers him. Spider-Man gritted his teeth. Oh, great. So basically, he's a medieval emo guy with fangs and bad table manners? He shot webs at nearby lampposts, bouncing himself unpredictably to distract Morbius. The vampire lunged, claws slashing at empty air as Spider-Man twirled and swung. Meanwhile, Strange began chanting, symbols forming rapidly on the asphalt. Golden lines radiated outwards, forming a circle of containment. Morbius turned toward the glow, sensing the trap, and hissed. He moved faster, leaping towards Spider-Man with blinding speed. Peter! Strange shouted. Now! Spider-Man ducked at the last second as Morbius barreled past, the vampire smashing into the center of the glyph circle. Strange's hands moved in a precise rhythm, the circle flaring brighter, forcing Morbius to stumble. Spider-Man landed on a nearby wall, firing webbing to hold the vampire upright. Sorry, buddy, but the party's over. Morbius growled, resisting, his red eyes wild. You cannot contain me. Strange's voice rose over the chaos. With my power, I bind you. Until your thirst is quelled and your mind restored, you are restrained. The sigils tightened like a cage. Morbius thrashed, claws slicing through some of the webbing Spider-Man had laid, but the mystic bonds held firm. Spider-Man dropped to his knees, breathing heavily. Okay, that's probably enough drama for me tonight. Next time, let's meet for coffee instead of bloodlust, all right? Strange stepped forward, golden light fading. I will take him to the sanctum for treatment. He will be safe there for now. But this is only the beginning. The forces feeding him are ancient. He is a symptom of something larger. Spider-Man nodded, still crouched on the ground. Great. I like my enemies with layers and side quests. Later, back at the Daily Bugle, Peter laid out photographs on Jameson's desk. Spider-Man mid-swing with Iron Man against Prowler. Rhino mid-charge. The Wall mid-transformation. Spider-Man and Doctor Strange restraining Morbius. Jameson flipped through them, grumbling. Masked menace. Tangled with monsters. Friends with billionaires and magicians. Peter shrugged. It's been an eventful week. Jameson jabbed a finger at the Morbius photo. I don't care if he's being restrained. That's news. People need to know what's prowling our streets. Peter collected his check, tucking the photographs carefully into his bag. Outside, the city stretched beneath him, alive and dangerous as ever. Somewhere in the shadows, Michael Morbius's glowing eyes blinked, even as the mystical bonds held him. And Spider-Man knew the night was far from over.
Now we get the Punisher story.
The Punisher #1. Welcome to the war zone before the skull, before the guns, before the name whispered in fear. There was only Frank Castle. Frank Castle was a soldier. Born Francis Castiglione, he grew up in the unforgiving streets of New York City. Poverty, violence, broken families. He learned early that life was survival and survival demanded discipline. He learned to fight before he learned to trust. The military found him at 18. A sharp mind, steady hands, and nerves of steel made him perfect for special operations. He thrived in the chaos of war zones across the globe. From deserts in the Middle East to jungles overseas, Castle executed missions that demanded precision, courage, and ruthlessness. He earned medals, commendations, and the reputation of a man who could do what others couldn't or wouldn't. But the battlefield was never the end. Returning home was. The city he came back to was crawling with organized crime. Drug lords, gang wars, and corruption seeped into every corner. And one night, Castle's family, the only family he had outside the army, became the target. It was a mob hit. Random? No. Targeted? Absolutely. His wife Maria and their 2 children caught in the crossfire of a turf war, bullets ripping through walls and bodies alike. Frank arrived too late. Nothing remained but the echo of screams, blood on the floor, and a life that had been shattered in seconds. He tried the law, the courts, the police, nothing. The system he had fought to protect failed him, and something inside Frank snapped. He didn't cry, he didn't beg, he didn't wait for justice. He decided to deliver it himself. He sold his apartment, liquidated his savings, and turned his war training into a personal arsenal. Pistols, rifles, explosives, body armor, every weapon he could legally acquire or not, he bought, built, or modified. Then came the symbol. A stark white skull emblazoned on black tactical armor, a warning to the guilty and a message to the innocent that justice was coming. He became a one-man army. Frank Castle didn't negotiate. He didn't plead. He didn't make deals. Criminals were targets. Corruption was a battlefield. Every action measured, every strike deliberate. At night, the streets of New York became his theater. He stalked gangs, mob bosses, and drug lords. He learned their habits, intercepted their shipments, and dismantled their operations methodically, violently, without hesitation. He earned names: vigilante, renegade, soldier. But there was only one name he answered to: the Punisher. In his first night on the hunt, Frank moved silently through an abandoned warehouse on the Brooklyn docks. Shadows stretched across crates, and the distant hum of engines betrayed movement. Inside, a gang of drug traffickers unloaded stolen shipments. Castle watched, calculated, targeted. He struck. Explosions echoed as makeshift charges went off. Gunfire shattered crates, and within minutes, the criminals were neutralized, either dead or incapacitated. Castle didn't pause to check names or faces. He didn't hesitate. There was no glory, only the mission. When the authorities arrived, they found bodies, evidence destroyed, but no sign of the man who'd done it. He melted back into the city, a shadow among shadows. And with every night, every strike, every criminal eliminated, the legend grew. Frank Castle became a name whispered in fear, a ghost in the criminal underworld, a war without end. He was the Punisher, and for him, the war was only beginning.
How do you protect yourself when it's raining bullets?
Animal days are here. Get 10% off feed and forage. Plus big deals on supplies, treats, and
We're at number 7 now.
The spectacular Spider-Man of 7, the Cat's Shadow. The city glittered below Spider-Man as he perched atop a neon-lit billboard in Midtown. Rain-slicked streets reflected the glow of traffic lights like a river of molten gold and red. Spider-Man scanned the streets. His spider sense was buzzing, not with danger exactly, but with mischief, agility, and the unmistakable scent of trouble. "Great," he muttered, crouching low. "Somebody stole from Fisk, and it's not like that ever goes smoothly." Below, moving with feline grace and audacious style, a figure danced across rooftops. Black leather, white streaks of hair catching the light, a mask that made her eyes gleam like mischievous stars. Felicia Hardy, Black Cat Spider-Man swung down, landing lightly behind her. "You know, most thieves leave a thank you card, or at least a warning," he quipped. "But new, you just go for the big guy's wallet." Black Cat paused, turning mid-leap. "Peter," she purred, You always make an entrance. You've been following me? Observing, Spider-Man corrected, crouching on the edge of a water tower. Mostly because you just stole millions from Wilson Fisk. That's not exactly street-level petty theft. Her grin was all sharp angles. Mr. Big doesn't need me worrying about him, but I do enjoy the chase. Spider-Man shook his head. You're lucky I like parkour because this is going to be one wild swing. They took off across the skyline, her movements lithe and precise, his acrobatics unpredictable. Black Cat darted between antennas and scaffolding while Spider-Man kept pace, shooting web lines to vault, spin, and intercept. Felicia, he called as she disappeared into the shadows of a partially constructed skyscraper. Don't make this personal. Too late, she called back, flipping over a crane's edge. Inside the building, the two danced through steel beams and unfinished floors. Black Cat's skill made it nearly impossible for Spider-Man to land a web, and her talon-like gloves allowed her to scale smooth metal walls with ease. You always do this, Spider-Man said, jumping onto a steel girder. Steal, tease, taunt, and expect me to look like the bad guy when I try to stop you. I like to keep things interesting, she purred, spinning in midair as she snatched a reinforced briefcase from a vault-like crate. Life's boring without a little thrill. Spider-Man lunged, webbing her mid-leap. She twisted, landing behind him on a beam. You're predictable, she teased, swiping at his webs. He grinned behind the mask. Maybe, but you're reckless. Suddenly, a sharp green glow cut across the floor below. A drone from Fisk's security system had deployed, firing concussive pulses. Black Cat hissed and leapt, narrowly avoiding the blast. Spider-Man twisted, webbing a support column to create a barrier between them and the incoming attack. Not bad for a newbie vigilante, she admitted, landing gracefully. Spider-Man smirked. And you're not bad for a high-end cat burglar with a personal flair for drama. The chase led them to the edge of the East River docks. A waiting Fisk convoy slowed down, trying to recover the stolen goods. Spider-Man caught sight of Black Cat, preparing to vanish into the night on a waiting hoverlift. Going somewhere? He called. Her grin widened. You'll always be a step behind, Spider-Man. But Spider-Man had one last trick. A quick web line attached to the hoverlift, yanking it just enough to throw Black Cat off balance. She landed on the dock, flipping with feline agility, but Spider-Man was ready, launching a web line to secure the briefcase. Nice try, he said, holding the briefcase with one hand while keeping his other ready. Black Cat smirked, brushing herself off. Consider it a temporary truce. Temporary? Spider-Man arched an eyebrow. Yeah, that tracks. Before he could respond, she disappeared into the shadows, leaving only the echo of her laughter behind. Hours later, Peter Parker returned to the Daily Bugle, laying out photographs on Jameson's desk. Spider-Man and Iron Man subduing the Prowler. Rhino and the Wall immobilized with Luke Cage's help. Spider-Man and Doctor Strange containing Morbius. And now Spider-Man confronting Black Cat at Fisk's docks. Jameson flipped through them, muttering under his breath. That masked menace, tangled with billionaires, criminals, and now a cat burglar, the city will burn before anyone notices my warnings. Peter collected his check, sliding the stack of photos into his bag. Outside, the night pulsed with life. Somewhere above, Black Cat vanished between skyscrapers. Somewhere below, Wilson Fisk's fury was already growing. And Spider-Man knew one thing. The shadows always held more than one predator.
But not for long, of course. I took the gamble. Or maybe it's an opportunity.
Now number 8.
If only I had been good at it. I may not be where I am today.
The spectacular Spider-Man number 8, Sparks in the Dark. The city had been unusually quiet that evening. Too quiet. Peter Parker perched on the edge of a construction crane, the skyline stretched out before him. His phone buzzed with police scanner updates. Minor thefts, traffic accidents, reports of electricity flickering across Midtown. Nothing he hadn't handled before. Then came the real alert, a surge so strong it lit up the power grid like a lightning storm in the clouds. Spider-Man's spider sense screamed. Ah, that's new, he muttered, clinging to the crane's metal beams. Definitely not the usual street-level villain. Below, the streets exploded with raw energy. Streetlights arced and sputtered, traffic signals glitched wildly, and a man, crackling with electrical energy from head to toe, stood in the center of the chaos. Sparks jumped from his fingertips with every movement, and the air around him hummed with dangerous power. Electro. Spider-Man swung down into the fray, landing on the hood of a flip taxi. Okay, fun fact, he called, webbing the nearest streetlight. Electricity is not usually considered a fun accessory, but you seem to disagree. Electro turned, lightning snapping from his hands like deadly fireworks. You think you can stop me, Spider-Man? I am the storm. Spider-Man tensed. Storms are fun for weather apps, terrible for sidewalks. He shot a web line toward Electro, who swatted it away with a bolt of energy, sending it snapping into the steel railing of a nearby construction site. Sparks showered Spider-Man, singing his mask. Noted, he shouted, leaping backward. He's got range. Electro surged forward, and Spider-Man's spider sense flared violently. The villain's lightning hit the crane, arcing across the metal, shaking the structure violently. All right, Spider-Man muttered, flipping over the railing midair. Time to improvise. Swinging between buildings, Spider-Man lured Electro toward a water tower. The villain followed, sparks scattering across the rooftop, igniting fires and scattered debris. Spider-Man's plan was risky. Water was conductive, yes, but he just needed to slow Electro down long enough to trap him. Come on, big sparkly guy, Spider-Man called. Let's see if you like a bath. Electro surged into a bolt toward him. Spider-Man dove into a puddle on the rooftop, allowing the electricity to discharge harmlessly into the water, creating a blinding flash and a loud crack. He shot webbing to anchor a nearby metal pipe and yanked it into position, forming a makeshift cage around the electrified villain. Electro struggled, energy arcing wildly against the metal. You can't contain me, he screamed, sparks licking the air. Spider-Man gritted his teeth. Oh, I think I can. You just haven't met the right web formula yet. He fired reinforced insulated webbing, weaving a complex lattice over the cage. Electro's blast struck it, but the webbing held, glowing faintly as it absorbed the energy. Gotcha! Spider-Man shouted, landing on the roof with a final flip, tightening the webbing and grounding it safely. Electro crackled, trapped and contained, panting. Sparks fizzled as the webbing held him in place. Spider-Man stepped back, hands on his hips. Okay, not my best first impression, but you're officially grounded. No pun intended, he said. Soon after, the NYPD arrived, carefully extracting Electro from the reinforced web cage. Spider-Man gave a quick wave before disappearing into the night sky. Hours later, Peter returned to the Daily Bugle, his backpack stuffed with photographs. Spider-Man and Black Cat at Fisk's docks. The chase across rooftops, her dramatic flips and theft in motion. Electro mid-surge, lightning crackling from his hands. Spider-Man's final web trap, the villain held safely for the authorities. Jameson grabbed the photos, scanning them with a mixture of fury and fascination. That masked menace, tangled with criminals, burglars, and now electricity itself? Peter Parker leaned back, exhausted but satisfied. Well, it's been an electrifying week. Jameson slammed a hand on the desk. Electrifying? Do you have any idea what this city has been exposed to? Peter handed over a few more prints. Here's everything from last story and this one. You wanted the truth, J. Jonah. Jameson muttered under his breath, glaring at the photos, scribbling notes for the next headline. Spider-Man's face was in nearly every shot, masked but unmistakable. Outside, the city pulsed with life. Somewhere above, Spider-Man swung from building to building, his silhouette cutting across the night sky. Somewhere in a cell, Electro buzzed angrily, trapped but plotting. And Peter knew the city would demand more. But for tonight, the streets were just a little safer.
He had a really good time. It smells incredible over here. But now that that's done, make sure you drop a like, comment down below what we should bring and who we should bring to Pat's Party next.
Hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you did, there's a playlist that you can watch all kinds of videos.
Now number 9 here.
The Spectacular Spider-Man number 9, Tides of Chaos. The rain came down in sheets, drenching the streets of Manhattan and turning the city into a labyrinth of puddles and slick asphalt. Spider-Man perched atop a streetlight, rain pelting his mask, watching the East River shimmer under the gray sky. Reports had been flooding the scanner all day. Flooding in Midtown, collapsed piers, boats smashed against the docks, people trapped in surging waters. But the cause of the chaos? Something far stranger than the usual bank robberies or street thugs. Peter Parker squinted through the rain. His spider sense tingled in warning. Not your typical city-level villain, he muttered. Definitely not your friendly neighborhood type of problem either. Then, from the depths of the East River, the water churned violently. A massive figure rose from the waves, dripping and reshaping itself with terrifying fluidity. His entire body gleamed like liquid metal, constantly flowing and reforming with every movement. Hydro-Man. Spider-Man landed on a pier, bracing himself as the villain stomped through the docks, water surging with every step. The wooden planks groaned under his watery form. "You're gonna ruin my pier," Spider-Man said, aiming a web line to anchor to a nearby crane. "And believe me, I'm gonna hold you accountable." Hydro-Man's voice gurgled as he spoke, water spilling from his mouth unnaturally. "You cannot stop me, Spider-Man." Water finds its way, always. Spider-Man ducked as Hydro-Man swung a massive arm of water, smashing a shipping container into the pier. Wood splintered, crates burst open, and waves of water surged toward trapped civilians. "Okay, note to self," Spider-Man muttered, landing behind a stack of crates. "Water-based villains are less polite than electricity guys." The web-slinger fired rapid shots of reinforced webbing, trying to bind Hydro-Man's arms and legs, but the villain simply flowed around the webs, forming new limbs and striking again with blinding speed. Spider-Man swung onto a crane, dangling above the waterfront. Maybe if I dehydrate him? No, that's cruel. He'd just soak it back up. As Hydro-Man surged forward, Spider-Man realized the key wasn't to fight him directly. He needed to contain him. Swinging toward a construction barge, Spider-Man quickly attached several reinforced web lines around hydraulic cranes and metal supports. He then lured Hydro-Man into the trap by firing web lines that acted as anchors, forcing the villain into a circular path. "Come on, water boy," Spider-Man called. "Into the net." Hydro-Man surged, attempting to smash through the makeshift cage, but Spider-Man had reinforced the webbing with insulated steel cables from the dockside construction. Hydro-Man struggled, water splashing and spraying in all directions, but the webbing held. "Not bad," Spider-Man muttered, balancing on a piling, "and you thought being wet all the time was a superpower." Police boats and emergency crews arrived, guiding civilians to safety. Hydro-Man, still trapped in the reinforced webbing and steel net, struggled furiously, unable to escape. Spider-Man ducked behind a crane to avoid a final lunge, shooting a web to secure the last loose strands. "Game over," he said, breathing heavily. Hours later, Peter Parker returned to the Daily Bugle dripping and exhausted, but with a collection of photographs in hand. Spider-Man's web trap holding Hydro-Man. Hydro-Man mid-surge, water splashing across the docks. Previous confrontations, Electro, Black Cat, and earlier street-level chaos. Jameson flipped through the stack, muttering with both disbelief and frustration. That masked menace, fights criminals, billionaires, and now, tidal waves? Peter slid the latest photos toward him. "All in a night's work. Here's everything from last story in this one, J. Jonah." Jameson squinted at the photographs, scribbling furiously for tomorrow's headline. "Spider-Man, endangering the public? Again?" Outside, the city streets were wet but intact. Somewhere above, Spider-Man swung between the rain-soaked buildings, silhouette blurred by downpour. Somewhere in a containment facility, Hydro-Man seethed, waves crashing against reinforced walls, but unable to escape. Spider-Man knew the fight was won, for now. But the tide of crime never stopped, and neither would he.
And now we have Black Cat #1.
Black Cat #1, Whiskers in the Night. The night was alive with the hum of the city. Distant car horns,
What
the
about
occasional
Superstore?
siren, and neon lights reflecting on rain-slicked streets. From atop a towering skyscraper, Felicia Hardy perched silently, her white-streaked hair blowing in the breeze, mask gleaming under the moonlight. She watched the Daily Bugle helicopter sweep past below. Somewhere inside that building, Peter Parker was probably bragging to Jonah Jameson, about photographs of her thefts. She smirked. The boy certainly had guts, though he could never catch her for more than a moment. Her most recent heist had gone smoothly. Almost. She'd walked away from Wilson Fisk's heavily guarded vault with the kind of thrill that only comes from dancing on the edge of danger. And of course, Spider-Man had been there, swinging in at the last second, grabbing her briefcase with a web before she could vanish. Persistent little spider, she muttered to herself, flipping over the edge of the building to land on a fire escape. Felicia's fingers traced the stolen jewels she'd temporarily hidden in her coat. They sparkled under the moonlight, teasing her. She loved the rush, the planning, the execution, the escape. But Spider-Man, he had a way of complicating things she liked. She paused mid-leap, landing silently on a rooftop garden. From below, she could see the streets crawling with Fisk's enforcers, searching for her. Felicia rolled her shoulders, stretching into the shadows. "You have to admire the spectacle," she whispered. "All these big, strong men, chasing a ghost in leather." A soft vibration in the corner of her mask caught her attention. A comlink? No, a warning. Spider-Man. He wasn't far. She could feel the tension in the air, the subtle shift in rooftops and alleyways that only he could produce. "Good," she murmured with a grin. "He's making it more fun." Felicia's life as Black Cat had always been a delicate balance. High-stakes theft, evading authorities, and keeping one step ahead of her constant fascination, Spider-Man. He was unpredictable, relentless, but he had morals. She, on the other hand, didn't. Not entirely, but she did have rules. Steal from those who could afford it, avoid innocent lives, and always leave her signature, a calling card only he would recognize. Tonight's heist was simple. Enter, extract, and vanish, and Spider-Man had only made it interesting. She crouched on a ledge, eyes scanning the streets below. Her next move had to be perfect. One wrong step, and the chase would end badly. "You really are persistent," a voice said from the shadows. Felicia froze, instinctively spinning toward it. A tall figure stepped forward, clad in black leather, mask glinting. Her grin widened. "Persistence is a compliment, Spider-Man," she said softly. He didn't reply immediately, instead stepping into the moonlight. "You keep stealing, Felicia. You think I won't notice?" "I think you enjoy the chase as much as I do," she said, circling him gracefully. "You're not supposed to be here, but somehow you always are." He narrowed his eyes beneath the mask. "You can't keep doing this forever." She tilted her head, smirk widening. "Neither can you stop me, and that's why we're going to keep meeting like this." With a swift motion, she shot a grappling line to the adjacent rooftop. Spider-Man lunged after her, but she was already swinging into the night. "You're predictable, Felicia," he called after her. "Not as much as you think," she replied, disappearing into the shadows, leaving only her laughter echoing between the skyscrapers. Back in her safe house, Felicia laid out her spoils, admiring the jewels and cash, but her thoughts were already on him. The spider. Peter Parker. Spider-Man. The thrill of the chase was addictive, and so was the company of the man who could keep up with her, if only for a fleeting moment. The night was hers. But tomorrow, the chase would continue. Felicia Hardy Black Cat had only just begun, and somewhere above the city, a certain wall crawler was already thinking about where she might strike next.
Then we have Hawkeye, #1. And then the last story.
Hawkeye #1. The arrow finds its mark. Clint Barton wasn't born extraordinary, not in the way most heroes were. No radioactive spiders, no mystical powers, no armor forged in secret labs. Just a kid from Waverly, Iowa, with an eye for precision and a restless streak a mile wide. He learned early that if you wanted to survive, you had to aim well. First with a bow in the cornfields, then with slingshots and baseballs in alleys. By the time he hit his teens, Clint's accuracy was nearly supernatural. Every shot counted, every target hit, and every failure taught him something he would never forget. Eventually, he joined the circus, not because he needed the spotlight, but because it was a place to hone his craft. Tightrope walkers, fire breathers, acrobats, all distractions to sharpen reflexes, timing, and nerves. He became the best, Clint Hawkeye Barton, master marksman and performer extraordinaire. But life in the circus was only temporary. Clint's talents drew attention. SHIELD, always looking for agents with unique skill sets, recruited him. And though he trained with them, learning combat, tactics, and espionage, he never lost the eye of an archer. Every arrow, every shot, carried the precision of a man who trusted only himself. His first solo mission with SHIELD took him to the streets of New York, tracking a gang smuggling illegal weapons through the docks. The criminals didn't know what hit them. Arrows zipped silently, knocking guns out of hands, cutting ropes, triggering alarms in precise sequence. No one died, not on his watch, but the gang was dismantled before they could react. By the end of the night, Clint stood atop a shipping crane, bow in hand, surveying the city skyline. The wind tugged at his jacket, and he felt that familiar sense of clarity only hitting a perfect shot could give. From the shadows, SHIELD agents emerged to meet him. "Good work, Barton," one said, "but there's more where that came from." Clint lowered his bow. "I know," and he did. The city had dangers that guns and fists couldn't always handle. Sometimes it took focus, precision, patience, and a perfect arrow. Clint Barton, Hawkeye, had found his calling, and the arrow always finds its mark.
And now, Amazing Spider-Man #1.
Amazing Spider-Man #1, The Sinister Six, rain-hammered the windows of a half-abandoned electronics store in Queens as Spider-Man stood upside down from the ceiling, staring at a police evidence board someone had clearly tried to wipe clean. 4 names circled in red: Electro, Scorpion, Vulture, Shocker, all recently transferred to the raft, all broken out within the same hour. "No forced entry," Spider-Man muttered. "Power grid interference, internal security failure, and a mysteriously disabled alarm system. That's not a jailbreak. That's a checkout line." He dropped to the floor as Captain Yuri Watanabe stepped into the room, arms crossed. "You're not officially here," she said evenly. "I'm unofficially concerned," Spider-Man replied. 4 of my least favorite people just vanished from the most secure prison in New York." Yuri studied him. "You think it's coordinated. I think it's a shopping list," she sighed. "Don't go rogue on me. No promises." Earlier that week, Peter Parker stood in a lab coat at the University Research Wing, carefully detaching a set of advanced mechanical arms from Dr. Otto Octavius's harness. The metal limbs twitched erratically. "I'm telling you, Otto, the neural feedback loop is overcompensating," Peter said, disconnecting a sparking wire. "They're not responding to your motor cortex correctly." Dr. Otto Octavius grimaced as the final arm powered down. "They were functioning yesterday." "They were malfunctioning yesterday," Peter corrected gently. "You nearly crushed the calibration table." Otto's jaw tightened. "These arms will change the world, Peter. Advanced prosthetics, precision labor, surgical applications, and yet every grant goes to Oscorp." The name hung in the air. Norman Osborn. Otto's eyes darkened. "Men like him are celebrated. Men like me are dismissed." Peter carefully removed the harness. "We'll fix them," he said. Otto forced a thin smile. "Yes, we will." That night, Spider-Man intercepted a jewel theft in progress. Black leather, silver hair, smirk sharp enough to cut glass. Black Cat flipped over him effortlessly. Still chasing me, Spider? She teased. You stole from Fisk, Spider-Man shot back. That's like poking a shark. She lunged. He blocked. They moved like dancers across a rooftop. She got away, but not before slashing his suit across the ribs with reinforced claws. Great, he muttered, examining the tier later in his apartment. Budget crisis, round 12. Back at the lab the next morning, Peter worked quickly at a sewing station, reinforcing web cartridge slots and patching ballistic fibers into the damaged suit. The lab doors opened. Otto stepped inside. Peter instinctively shifted the suit under a cloth. Working late? Otto asked. Yeah, side project. Otto noticed the faint red fabric beneath the cloth, but said nothing. Peter forced a casual tone. I design gear for Spider-Man. Otto raised an eyebrow. You're his tailor? Weapons and suit designer, Peter corrected. Somebody's got to keep him in one piece. Otto's expression softened faintly. At least someone out there supports him, Otto said quietly. The city needs symbols, not fear-mongering. Yeah, Peter said. Not everyone believes Jameson. Otto nodded, but his eyes lingered. The police scanner exploded to life that afternoon. Confirmed sightings. Electro draining a substation. Vulture terrorizing Midtown. Shocker hitting armored transport. Scorpion spotted near the waterfront. Spider-Man swung into action. He intercepted a group of armed criminals breaking into an abandoned building in Hell's Kitchen. Guys, he sighed, webbing 3 of them to a wall, this place doesn't even have Wi-Fi. Then he felt it. Spider sense detonated. Lightning struck from behind. Electro blasted him through a window. Scorpion tackled him midair. Vulture swooped from above. Shocker's vibroblast shattered brick. They hadn't broken into the building. They'd lured him there. It was a setup. Spider-Man crashed onto the rooftop. Well, he coughed, this is rude. Then a glider engine roared overhead. Green smoke spiraled. The Green Goblin landed. Green Goblin tilted his head. Surprise! Spider-Man struggled to his feet, surrounded. Goblin, he demanded, dodging another blast. Why did you break them out? The Goblin laughed. I didn't. Spider-Man froze mid-swing. You'll be surprised who did. Behind him, metal shrieked. 4 massive mechanical arms burst through the rooftop. Dr. Octavius hovered above the battlefield, eyes blazing. The harness was fused to him now. The arms moved like living things. I will no longer be dismissed, Otto declared. Dr. Octopus had been born. Dr. Octopus seized Spider-Man midair and slammed him through a ventilation shaft. Electro blasted him again. Scorpion's tail struck his ribs. Shocker's vibrations rattled bone. Vulture sliced across his back. The Goblin only watched, laughing. Spider-Man, barely conscious, fired webs wildly, binding Shocker to a smokestack and shorting Electro with grounded web lines. He yanked Vulture out of the air and hurled him into Scorpion. But Octopus caught him again. You disappoint me, Otto said quietly. Spider-Man stared through a cracked lens. You were supposed to help people. I am, Otto replied coldly. He hurled Spider-Man off the building. Peter fell, through rain, through smoke, into the river below. Darkness swallowed him. A voice crackled in his ear. Spider-Man, respond, Yuri's voice. What are you doing going AWOL? The hospital says you still have 14 broken bones. Peter coughed water, dragging himself onto a pier. 14 broken bones, he rasped. That means I've got 192 non-broken ones. Stand down. Can't. Police sirens wailed in the distance. 5 of them, Peter continued, forcing himself upright. 5 of the so-called Sinister Six are in custody. That's what Jameson's calling them, right? Yes. Electro, Scorpion, Vulture, Shocker, Dr. Octopus. You barely survived. The Goblin's still out there, Peter said, pulling himself onto a rooftop with shaking hands. He's the only one who didn't get arrested. Rain streamed down his mask. He's teaming up with my worst enemies, and a man I believed in. Yuri's voice softened. You're hurt. I know. Below, ambulances took away 5 defeated villains. Above, somewhere in the city, the Goblin laughed. Spider-Man stood alone against the skyline, bruised, battered, 14 bones fractured, and still standing. Round 2, he whispered. And somewhere in the shadows unseen, the game was only just beginning.
And now, the last one, the list of stories and characters. Here we go.
Here's a complete list of every story so far in your universe, along with the major characters that appeared in each one. Number 1. The Spectacular Spider-Man number 1 main characters. Peter Parker, Spider-Man. Otto Octavius, Norman Osborn, Mayor. Shocker AIM agents, The Avengers referenced. Number 2. The
What the fuck you mean something went wrong?
Here's a complete list of every story so far in your universe, along with the major characters that appeared in each one. Number 1. The Spectacular Spider-Man number 1. Main characters. Peter Parker, Spider-Man. Otto Octavius, Norman Osborn, Mayor, Shocker, AIM agents, The Avengers referenced. Number 2. The Spectacular Spider-Man number 2 main characters. Peter Parker, J. Jonah Jameson, Vulture, Otto Octavius. 3. Falcon number 1 main characters. Sam Wilson, Falcon. 4. Main characters, Luke Cage. 5. Hellcat number 1. Here's a complete list of every story so far in your universe, along with the major characters that appeared in each one.
Damn thing is stupid.
Here's a complete list of every story so far in your universe, along with the major characters that appeared in each one. Number 1. The Spectacular Spider-Man number 1. Main characters. Peter Parker, Spider-Man. Otto Octavius, Norman Osborn, Mayor, Shocker, AIM agents, The Avengers referenced. Number 2. The Spectacular Spider-Man number 2 main characters. Peter Parker, J. Jonah Jameson, Vulture, Otto Octavius. 3. Falcon number 1 main characters. Sam Wilson, Falcon. 4. Main characters, Luke Cage. 5. Hellcat number 1.
Okay, Hellcat number 1. Pass the Walker Hellcat. I mean, it's Spectacular Spider-Man number 3. Spider-Man, Peter Parker, Scorpion, Green Goblin, Otto Octavius, May Parker. I mean, Spider-Man number 0. Peter Parker, Matt Gargan, Wilson Fisk, J. Jonah Jameson. May Parker, Green Goblin, JJJ number 1. J. Jonah Jameson, Matt Gargan, Police Investigators. Iron Man number 1. Ho Jensen, Howard Stark, and Tony Stark / Iron Man. The Spectacular Spider-Man number 4. Peter Parker, Prowler, Iron Man. Number 5. Peter Parker, Rhino, The Wall, Luke Cage, J. Jonah Jameson. Doctor Strange number 1. Stephen Strange, Ancient One, Brando Morden. I don't know how to say that name. The Spectacular Spider-Man number 6. Main characters. Peter Parker, Michael Morbius, Stephen Strange, J. Jonah Jameson. Punisher number 1. Frank Castle / The Punisher. The Spectacular Spider-Man number 7. Peter Parker, Black Cat, Wilson Fisk. Number 8. Peter Parker, Electro, J. Jonah Jameson. Number 9. Peter Parker, Hydro Man, J. Jonah Jameson. Black Cat number 1. Black Cat, Peter Parker, Wilson Fisk. Hawkeye number 1. Clint Barnes as Hawkeye, SHIELD Organization. The Amazing Spider-Man number 1. The Sinister Six. Peter Parker / Spider-Man. Dr. Octopus, Green Goblin, Electro, Scorpion, Vulture, Shocker, Yuri Watanabe, and J. Jonah Jameson.